That the FBI just all of a sudden decided to monitor you and tap into your phone.
Like black activists are model like
terrorists, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they sent, and the FBI sent an email or something, because I was in Black Lives Matter, like in the Los Angeles chapter with like Melina is one amazing.
And that's when they're really hot during that time. You just living life thinking that, I'm just going to go in this meeting and I'm just going to wing it and see how it comes out. And when you're not successful, you start blaming everybody else. Come on, man. You know
stop putting on a facade and this facade of somebody that you're not.
Stop trying to look good and actually
put in the groundwork.
Finally getting a black teacher that looks like you, that represents you, that's smart. It's just amazing. Welcome back to another episode of Sharp and Sharper. I have a special guest in the building. His name is Elijah Johnson. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, for real.
Man, thank you for being here.
Of course.
How you been? How's your 2020?
Man, 2020 been awful. I ain't even gonna lie to you, bro. It just started out, with a lot of deaths coming into the new year, and then my hero, Kobe died. So that hurt me, and I ain't even gonna lie, I cried. I ain't never cried that hard in my life. You feel me? And so I've been trying to get over that, trying to finish school, but I just got approved for graduation yesterday.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Wait, so this is your fourth year?
Yeah, it's my last year. Wow. It's my last semester.
That's it?
Yeah, so.
Oh man.
After that, I'm gonna be amazing. Like, thank you. I'm gonna be like Cole. I had that communications degree. And then we're gonna see what's going on. Yeah, you feel me? So, that's it. We're only 2 months in. We're gonna see what the rest of the year got in store for us. But that's what we've been at.
That's what's up. You got any plans like after you graduate? Like anything you want to do to celebrate or go anywhere?
To celebrate? Nah. It's never been like a huge thing of mine to graduate. Like, I wasn't gonna go to school at first, and then God kind of placed this opportunity like right in my hands. So now that I'm here, it's just like it's a good thing that I am graduating, but I feel like I got a lot more work to do. So after I graduate, I know I'm gonna want to take a little break from like,
I feel it,
because school is like nonstop. It's like 16 years nonstop, just straight.
Right, and I know you've been like active at your school, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any like clubs you're part of or anything that you do in particular?
I used to be a part of this club called United, because CBU at first they didn't allow us to have a BSU.
And CBU is California Baptist University?
Absolutely. Okay. Over there in Riverside, they didn't allow us to have a BSU. So I was the vice president of this club, United, but then we ended up going through some things, and the club kind of like died out after a time, because people would graduate, and it wasn't that, like, our black population wasn't that good on campus until we went D1. Then when we went D1, more and more people started coming in, and now we're getting a BSU, thank God. And,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so
yeah. Cool. Now let's talk about this rap journey of yours. When did it start?
It started, I knew I wanted to be a rapper when I was like 6. Like, my grandma, she told this story, or she always tells me this story, that she asked me when I was a little kid, like a little baby. Yeah. She's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, I want to be a rapper. And
that's like, baby talk.
Yeah. And so I knew that from there. And the first time that I ever performed, I was in 4th grade. And I performed in front of my class, and I was in this group that we made in class called Chain Gang. Mm-hmm. And it was just a group of
good
us.
Memory, 4th grade. That's bad.
And that was the first time that I ever like performed, and I performed in front of my class and everything, and it was all of us. It was a big group of us, and we all performed. And then from there, music is always just a piece of me, Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that I listened to music on my own. Like, I only listen to the music that my mom or my dad played in the car, or, you know, when it's Saturday morning and, you know, it's time to clean up and they start playing that music
Right.
in the morning. That's the only time I listen to music. You know, I didn't have a phone till I was in like 8th grade. So I didn't listen to music on my own. But for some reason, like, rap was always just a part of me. And then, you know, in middle school, still rapping, still doing poetry.
Do you find that you express yourself through rap?
That's the only way. Like, if I got multiple raps. Like, if it wasn't for music, if it wasn't for rap and poetry and everything like that, I don't think I'd be alive.
Wow.
And like, that's a real honest
Why
statement.
though? Why do you feel that way?
Because a lot of people come to me for counseling, you know, or come to me with their problems, and I'm always excited to like give wisdom or whatever I can to help the situation. But at a certain point, that burden starts to weigh on you.
Absolutely.
And if I always feel like there's no one that I can go to in that time, so the fact that I'm able to express myself through that, it allows me to get that anger and stuff or whatever it is out, and I don't have to just hold it and keep it in and feel like I'm always alone or always in solitude. Because when I am in solitude and when I am alone, I can go to music and I can do something productive in that quiet place, you know? So
where did that anger come from?
I guess just like my childhood. And I don't think I had an awful childhood. Like, looking back on it, I see the things that I went through, and it's like, oof, like, I didn't, you know, you don't look at it like that going through it, but
Right.
looking back, you're like,
Now that
dang.
you're older and you got
But it's just, I let a lot of things slide. Like, I'm a nice person, and so it's like, you let a lot of things slide, and then it's like a straw that breaks the camel's back. And then people looking at me like, yo, like, you're over exaggerating, but it's because it's like all these things that I let slide all this past time, and finally
it
now
piled up, and now it's an explosion.
Exactly.
It blew up.
So I think it's just a series of events, really.
Okay. Let's talk about Holding On. I was listening to that yesterday, getting ready for the interview. Talk to me about where your head was at when you wrote that.
Man. All right. So Holding On is on the project Elijah's Heart, the EP, right? And it's
you have an EP out.
Yeah, I have 2 albums out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I wish I would have listened to it.
Pay
Like,
for the way that you district states. Pay for the way that you treat an addict. Pay cause you killed them just out of habit. Pay for the music that you still own. Pay for the culture that you done stole. You stole rap, stole blues, and you stole rock and roll. I'm here to take it back.
Yeah, no, I got 2 albums out, and then that EP, and then I drop a single every week. And I could tell you all about that. But
Okay.
So Holding On is on Elijah's Heart, the EP. It's the second project I dropped. And it was supposed to serve as a promotion to the second album, or mixtape, because I call the albums mixtapes. It was supposed to serve as that. And I made that whole thing, it's just 5 songs. I made it in 4 days, but people like love it.
wow.
And Holding On, I knew that I wanted that to end it. And when I was writing Holding On, when I first listened to the beat, it was made by this dude on YouTube named November. And shout out to November. I heard the beat, and it made me really think about like everything in life that you're like barely clinging on to. So when I start the rap off, I say quitting ain't in my repertoire. And that really set the tone for everything for me, because there's so many times we're going through something, you know, creatively, or something like music or business or anything like that, where you're going to want to quit. You're going to want to quit because you feel like it's not doing as well as you're supposed to be doing. And then to make matters worse, you may feel like you're putting out a good and authentic product, and you see somebody that's not, and they make the skyrocket, you know, right past you.
I see that all the time.
Exactly. So it does make you want to quit and just give up. I'm like, dude, it's not even worth it. And you see how much money you putting in, how much time, and all of the stuff that you putting in. You start to feel like it's not even worth it. So I started that off with quitting's not in my repertoire. Like, my mama never raised a quitter. That's not what she raised me to be. That's not what my dad named me to be. And then from there I go through everything. I talk about the life of, you know, people in jail,
People that are your family members, or just people in general?
Both people
Okay.
that are my family members that are in jail, but people that are just that I know, because my mom, she ran a daycare, so you know I get to run into a lot of people that are fathers or mothers that are in jail, and you see how that affects the kid and everything like that. And I go through all these things in that song where it talks about just holding on. Just hold on. I know a lot of people that took their life. I mean, you know, you was at Pally, like,
Yeah.
you know, there be a lot of people that really do take their lives. And it's like, just hold on, you know, just for a second. And I kind of play on the words as well in that song. So.
Right. And there was another, I don't know if it was, no, I think it was a freestyle. It's called Problems. I think that's really significant because what you talked about, you know, prison and just people not, you know, holding on or, you know, staying their course, whatever it may be. Can you talk about that a little bit? Was that something that, you know, was directly came from what you were feeling, your childhood? Like, how did that song come about?
That song actually just came about in the moment, especially the hook for that. It was while I was just recording that little sit and spit, and it was, I got problems, I don't think that I could tell you. And I like that. I liked how that felt in the moment. And then from there, I just started to go through, and this is how I get this anger and all these feelings out, because I started to go through everything that I seen as a problem, you know. And I love the fact, it's kind of ironic, because in the beginning I started off saying I got problems that I don't think that I could tell you, and then I go on to tell you all of these problems. So I love it. But I just think it's important for me to speak about it, you know, to say something. If I see it as a problem, and if it's true to me, then it might be true to somebody else. And even if it's not true to the masses, this is one of the things that I learned with, you know, having 6 people show up to your show. If you could just affect one, then you did your job, you know, like, or at least that's all I want to do. Is, you know, whatever I put out, whatever time I speak or preach or rap or do poetry, touch one.
Have an impact.
Yeah. Touch one.
Yeah.
And from there, you know, you never know the blessings that you could receive or they could receive. So
Problems was from a freestyle, or were you like writing that and you named it Problems?
No, that's written out and it's named Problems. The hook was freestyled.
Right, and you were doing it on a sit and spit Sunday?
Yeah.
Now talk to me about how did you like come up with that, or where did that come from?
Sit and spit?
Right, because you're doing that almost like every Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's like, everybody can't, you know, just spit like that every single week.
Yeah.
Come up with something like that.
So,
and still make it sound good.
Thank you. I actually appreciate that. But it's actually, I'm not gonna lie, like, it is hard because I try to put out a song on Amor Thursdays every Thursday, and I could talk a little bit about that. And then for Sit and Spit, you know, I'm also trying to give that content as well. But it started out with Freestyle Fridays. And I used to do, like, if you scroll through my Instagram, you'll see videos of like somebody recording me, and I like do a little freestyle for about a minute. And that stopped because, you know, I didn't have nobody to record me.
Right.
So I was like, dang, like, what can I do?
Yeah, get you a tripod and just set it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And I got me, before I had a tripod, I just set my phone on something like some books and everything, and see if I could get it there. But the first actual Sit and Spit, I asked Instagram, I was like, what beats do you guys want me to rap on? And I got a few beats, and I rapped on 3 that day. And
just like that.
Yeah, I rapped on this Kendrick Lamar and Ab-Soul beat. I rapped on From Time by Drake, and then I rapped on Anthem, but it's the song that played in Jordan Peele's Us. Okay. Yeah, it's like this stuff was crazy when I was listening to it. But I sat down, and it was one of my dreams to like be on a music thing and just be like yo, like go ahead and spit. And I wanted to do it, and I wanted to mimic it. And then it just so happened to be on a Sunday, so I tried to come up with some type of, thing that's gonna stick with people.
Right, and you got so far that you had people requesting that, right?
Yeah. So
that's real.
Yeah, thank you.
Who do you feel that influences you the most as a rapper?
It's like 5 people. Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Eminem, Andre 3000, Lauryn Hill, and I gotta put Jay-Z in there.
Yeah, and do you feel like you get some of your style from them, or have you just created your own thing and it just meshes in?
Yeah, I think I for sure got my style from them. If you listen to some of the rhyme schemes that I have, like a ABBA or things like that, that's from Andre. There's times where I do this aggressive voice from Kendrick, like straight up.
Right.
Some of the bridges that I like to do when I do certain songs is from Lauryn Hill, and the content that I like to do, some of it from Lauryn Hill. Other like rhyme schemes and patterns and descriptiveness comes from people like Eminem and Nas. And then like when you
Nas, yeah.
I love Nas. And then like really just slowing things down is what I learned from like Jay-Z, and like taking that time to really talk, having little pauses to where you could just laugh and everything. It kind of feel like a flex. It's from Jay-Z, and then all of that, just watching, and listening to all of them, it come together. Mm-hmm. And now like I listen to myself, I'm like, man, like I have a distinct sound, like
it's different.
Yeah,
sure.
Thank you. So I mean, thank God, for that. You feel me?
Yeah. So do you feel that you're like, because I know you're not just a rapper, you're a poet and you do other things along those lines. Do you feel like your poetic side, your activism, because you also do activism as well, connects to your rapping? Yeah,
absolutely. So, sometimes when I was really starting out, like to put out music in a SoundCloud era, it really, really came out. Like every song was about Black issues and everything like that. And then, my last album, Nota Bene, I have this song called Let It Go. Mm-hmm. And I have a video for it too. And it talks about the pain of a Black man. And some people say it's one of the best songs that I've ever written.
Okay.
I don't know, but I'm glad that some people
Is
think
it on
that.
the first or second EP?
Second
one. Okay.
And I sit there and I break down. The first verse is about this kid that grows up without a father. This Black kid that grows up without a father turns to, a life of gang violence and everything, and he ends up dying. And then the second verse is about him, that same kid, but he grows up with his father. Mm-hmm. And they sit there and they have a conversation, and his dad tells him everything to look out for. And I feel like in that verse, I put so many people on game. Like, yo, you got to look out for this, and that. And I thank God for that verse. Like, I didn't know it would have the effect that it did, but I do thank God for that. So that was on the last piece. But I definitely think that my poetry, my activism, it shows up in my music because that's who I am. Like that's just me. Mm-hmm. I can't exclude a part of my life outside of my music,
Yeah. How does your creative style work? Like when you're actually like you trying to make that song.
Mm-hmm. So it works in a multitude of ways. I could walk out this interview right now and I get on the elevator and I get this melody in my head and say like I have a hook or something in my head, and from that point I'll look for a beat to fit that hook, right? Or sometimes like I'll be walking and it's a line that really gets me or captures me, and it hit my soul. So I'm gonna start my verse off with this line, and then sometimes it's the beat. And thank God for YouTube, but in YouTube, a lot of the producers they put a title on their beats.
Okay.
And from that, I listen to the beat, and sometimes the title, like for Holding On, the title for that beat is Holding On.
Okay.
And I could take that and be like, dude, this is an amazing title, and I could use that title in this beat. And sometimes I like your title, but I don't like your beat. So I'll take that title and that idea that I get from that title, and
you use it in a different way. Yeah.
So it works in a lot of different ways.
Talk about your activism a little bit, like how that works. 'Cause I know you're in high school, and it was a walkout or something to that effect. Talk about, all around too, and also see you posting a lot of poetry that's, centered around police violence and black culture and how we're viewed in the media.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you can hit that,
So with activism, I think it starts out with my family. My dad, huge activist. My mom and my dad were huge activists. My grandfather was. My grandmother was. And I kind of got into it. I don't know if it was something like I got into, but I just read books and I saw things. I saw the things that were happening. So
what were the books you were reading?
One of the first books that I read was this book called The Pact. And it's about these 3 men that grew up in a hood that went on to become doctors. These 3 black men that went on to become doctors. And then
you won't find that in the history books.
Yeah. And then in high school, I started to read books about slavery, but the aftermath of slavery, breaking the psychological chains of slavery is the book. The Miseducation of the Negro is another book by that I used to read. Malcolm X's autobiography is another book. Books about the Black Panthers.
I gotta read that Malcolm X one.
Yeah. There's so many good books. The Psychopathic Racial Personality, which is a really, really small book, but it was so dense.
Wow. Well, you got a list. Yeah. This man full of knowledge and power.
Thank you. And my fault too. But and then in class, I used to be a TA, and I would sit in the back and I would watch YouTube videos and documentaries and everything. People talking about the Gullah Wars, which I never heard before, which is all these wars and uprisings of slaves, during that time period and everything like that. And seeing all these videos of Malcolm and everything, it really got me fired up. So then the thing at Pali happened, where somebody came and was F everybody, the N-word, Jews, Hispanics, they was F everybody. They sat there and they spray painted KKK and all of that stuff. And the school was yo, it's all right, just come back to school.
I'm trying to cover it up.
Yeah. So that's what, at that point, we hit the group chat, because it was a little BSU group chat at the time. And
and for those who don't know, Palisades, it's in a majority white community.
Yeah.
Thriving. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Next to the beach. But.
Absolutely. And I actually appreciate Pali because it was a microcosm of the United States. The exact the statistics, it's 13% black, which is the same thing in the United States, and the same percentage of white people.
I thought it was less of that, because that issue with the buses, kids just
so that happened after I left.
Right.
So I could get into all of that. So that happened. Somebody in a group chat hit that we should have a walkout. That was not my idea, and I can't remember whose idea that was.
Even if it was your idea, I think it was warranted. It was
absolutely.
It was reasonable.
It needed to happen. So we ended up having the walkout, and in that time, Miss Adams was "Yo, does everybody understand why everyone's here?"
And Dr. Adams is Like,
yeah, she's the best.
she's like oh man, how do you describe Dr. Adams? She's like the foundation of black students at Palisades.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, she fights
yeah,
for the students,
absolutely. Absolutely.
even though she's suffering abuse.
Yeah.
You know.
And she goes through it for us. And so at that point, I kind of took lead, like, naturally. It wasn't a thing that I thought about. And so I was like, yo, I sat everybody down and was like, yo, this is why we're here. And then by the time the second period rolled around, like, it was a group of people that came out. And
Yeah, I was there.
yeah. So from that point, I was like, okay, like, this can't end here. Like, we need we need something that needs to be done. We're not just walking out just cause. And I wanted everyone to understand why we're walking out. And then I realized that, oh, like, you guys get paid by attendance. So us, walking out actually really hurts. And I know that, from the books, if you ever want to get somebody to listen, you hit them where it hurts. You hit them in them pockets. And so I was telling everyone, I was like, yo, don't sign in. Because I was like, notice, like, they don't care that you're not in class. They were literally passing around sign-in sheets. Like, yo, everybody just sign in, because that's how they get paid. So I was like, yo, like, no, we have demands. And we went to the back room. It was me, Amindi, and Alonzo. Amindi's doing her thing. Alonzo doing her thing right now. Shout out to them. And we came up with, like, these 10 demands, like the Panthers.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was actually on that list, because you was talking about busing, was free busing. And I could tell you why we stopped that. But another thing that was on that list was the African American history class, and another thing was the African American literature. So from that point forward, a lot of people don't know is that I ended up being in a lot of meetings with, the president of Palisades, and not like the United States.
What do you mean Palisades? You mean
I guess she was the vice president, Miss I.
Oh yeah, the assistant, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, the vice principal, yeah. The vice principal and the principal, and then, like, their assistants. I was in a lot of meetings with them. Like, I was never in class for like 2 months.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and just having meetings. And finally, like, I was getting fed up because we was really trying to get this African American history and African American literature class. We were trying to get the free busing. We wanted to look at the statistics for the kids that were suspended and why they were suspended.
Man, y'all were going, like, deep to the root.
And we found that, there were obviously a lot more black kids that are suspended, and for tedious things, for like disrupting the class and everything. And for the white kids that were suspended, it was like drugs. And it was like crazy to us.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, we need
difference.
to. Yeah. We were like, okay, well, we need to reform this. And they was like, well, you guys reform it. And it was like, there's no help. They was like, you guys do it. And then
And you were a senior at this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, so we're like, dude, we're not writing a reform for you guys at school. And then the thing about busing was, we looked at the statistics for busing, and Alonzo and I, who was like really, really working on this, we had this meeting at his house, and we were like, yo, we called them little yellow slave ships, because we would really, the amount of black kids that were on those buses, we were taking all these black kids from the communities that we lived in and bringing them out here. And it's boosting their diversity scores, making them look like a really, really good school. Or we're taking funding, because Dorsey also gets funded by attendance as well. And, Crenshaw gets funded by attendance.
School, right?
Yeah. And it's like, yo, like, at that time, like, Dorsey didn't have a band because they couldn't fund it. And there's so many things that Dorsey couldn't fund. And it's like, dude, I'm not fighting for free busing for the kids in our community to go to that school. No. Like, we at that point, we were like, no, we'd rather the kids stay in our community, help, so we could get that funding and we could build our community up, not build Palisades up. Palisades is doing fine. So we stopped on busing. And it was like, yo, y'all can have that. And then our main focus became the African American history and African American lit. And I was in this meeting, and we had already talked in an email, and the principal of Palisades would never put anything on a signature, like put her name on anything. And first off, before I even go into that, like, she would never come out. Like,
that's interesting.
No one ever knew who she was until that happened. And we was like, dude, who? Everyone thought Miss I was the principal when I was there.
Right.
Everyone
she was
thought Miss
involved.
I. Yeah. And no one knew. Everyone just knew that she, like, I think her name is McGee. Dr. McGee. Yeah. Everyone just knew that she drove a Tesla. And we was like, how does she have a Tesla? It's like no one knows who you are.
Check the bank statements.
Yeah.
The payroll every month. Then you know how. You know, let me just, you know, I'm not gonna go too far, but good salary. Let me say that.
Yeah.
Good salary.
She's one of the top highest paid in the country.
Yeah.
One of the highest paid
exactly.
principals in the country. Okay.
And and that was a problem to us, because we were like, how, like, we don't even know I didn't even know what she looked like. No one knew what she looked like. In all seriousness, this is a true story. I was walking back to class, and I walked by the principal, did not know it was her. Did not know. Like, she stopped me, and she was like, oh, like, I'm Dr. McGee. I was like, you're Dr. McGee? Like, I had no idea. And then that was my third year there, and I had no idea who you are. So that was a problem. So from that moment forward, like, everybody started seeing her a lot more often and everything, which was funny. But she never put her name on anything. And I wrote in an email that, like, yo, like, pretty much this is what needs to happen. This is our demands, and this is what's going to happen. And finally, they take me out of class, and they pull me out, and I was supposed to be in a meeting by myself. And it was going to be like 6 of them in there, and it was just going to be me. And I was like, yo.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not doing this meeting without Alonzo. So the same way you pulled me out of class, you could pull Alonzo out of class.
Yeah.
And so I was like, but I'm not going in there. Because they, you know, throughout history, they'll separate, you know, the group. And I was like, that's not going to happen here.
And that's real funny, because I had a similar situation when I was a senior at Pally.
Yeah.
Last year. It was like 3 or 4 of them, and it was just me.
Exactly.
Not knowing that you got to have some backup. But go ahead. Yeah.
So, exactly. So, we go in there, Alonzo and I'm not talking at all. Because everything that I said I needed, which our demand, this was non-negotiable. Like, everything I said, it's already in the email. Like, I'm like, why? I hate meetings when everything can be summed up in an email. So they start freaking out. Miss McGee, like, they start freaking out. Like, yo, why aren't you talking? Why aren't you talking? I was like, and I told them straight up, like, this is pretty much verbatim. Like, everything that I said I needed is in an email. Why am I here? You pulled me out of class to talk about what's in an email because you don't want anything written in response to me of you saying no. Exactly. So I was like, I'm done talking to you guys. Don't say anything to me until I get an email. And I was telling them, like, yo, like pretty much this is gonna go bad for you guys. This is gonna go really, really bad. And so they're looking at me, they're like, well, which one do you guys want? Do you want the African American history or African American literature? And they left the room and left Alonzo and I to talk about it. We started talking about it. We're like, yo, like, which one is more important? And then we're sitting there, we're like, why don't we get both? Like, we're like, what are you talking about? This is, and Alonzo's like, this is not a negotiation. These are demands. And I was like, dude, you're so right. And we ended up getting both. And now there's African American history, African American literature at that school, which is amazing. And the thing that was big for us, though, was we didn't want it to be an elective. So we wanted you to be able to take African American history, African American, exactly, and get, I think it's a G credit. And so there was at that moment, there was only 3 other schools that had it. And it was one school in Oakland. So I was like, we can model the class after this class in Oakland. Because they're like, well, you're going to have to write the curriculum. We're going to have to do anything.
That's bogus.
Yeah. So I was like, there's a whole thing here that I found. And I was like, you can model it after this in Oakland, and you could literally just use this. And they ended up doing it. They had me in the room to hire the teacher.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Who were the candidates?
I can't say.
Okay.
Nah. But I don't even remember their names. But I was there until like 6 or 7, bro. Like just sitting in interviews. Yeah, sitting in interviews. Like, I was really involved. Like this, it was crazy.
And I didn't know any of that. It went that deep. And let me just say, like, having those classes are so essential, because I was in both of them, the history and the literature.
Amen.
And like thinking about my first, I don't worry about it. No, thinking about my first ever black teacher, and I'm like a sophomore or like a junior, like in high school.
Yeah.
So K through 8. And then 9th, and then finally getting a black teacher that looks like you, that represents you, that's smart. You know, it's just amazing.
Yeah, Miss Adams.
Someone who understands you.
Yeah, she was so scared that we were gonna lose everything because there's a teacher that got fired because of me, and
Really?
Yeah, Miss Adams was so.
What was the circumstances, if you can?
She was standing with us. She was an econ teacher, and she was standing with us, and she was like,
and she was
like,
black?
No, she was white. She was white.
And she was like, so she was like supporting you guys at the rally and stuff.
And I guess they told her, at least this is what she told me, was that, you know, you're like too close to the students, yada, yada, yada. And she was like a first year. It was like, oh, you're too close to the students, like you need to separate yourself from, and they mentioned me by name is what she said. And she got fired because she got fired like the next day because I guess they saw us having a conversation, and she came up to me in tears and she was like, give him hell. Yeah. It's crazy. Palisades was gonna take away my graduation, and they was like, you're not gonna graduate.
Why? Because
of what I was doing, everything like that. But I never cared about any of that stuff.
Man, I wish.
So I'm like, yo, like, it doesn't matter. But they threatened graduation, and they threatened it to me. I didn't tell anybody. But word got out that they threatened graduation.
I wish, man, you would have an army. If I knew that.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There were so many people around me that were like, yo, if you're not graduating, I'm not showing up. And they found out that it's going to look awful if all these students just don't show up to graduate. And so they're like, all right, you're going to graduate. And then I ended up giving a speech. You had to try out to give a speech.
Yeah.
And
so they put you up.
No. So this is what happened. I gave this. It was an assignment in my English class. I gave that speech in my English class. My teacher was like, "You have to go try out for this speech. Like you have to. I'm going to sign you up." But I went and I signed up, and I gave the speech, and the teachers that were there loved it. That were, going to choose who gives a speech. They loved it. They loved it so much that they went and they told Dr. McGee and Miss I that he's going to give the speech. Like, we're going to choose him. And Dr. McGee and Miss I was like, there's no way that he's giving that speech. So they're like, there is no way that we're allowing him to get up there to speak, anything like that. And the teachers went to bat for me.
Wow.
It was like the craziest thing, and they were like, "No, he's gonna give this speech, yada yada yada." And then they was like, "Well, we need to hear the speech, and we need to assign him with a teacher that's gonna go over the speech." So I got signed up with this teacher. Her name is Miss Ramsey, the greatest.
Oh yeah,
never,
I love Miss Ramsey.
Yeah, never had her in a class, but
she's amazing. Yeah,
amazing. Love her. And went over the speech, and I went up there. I gave the speech, and the speech was amazing and everything, but they was not trying to let me get that speech at all.
That's wild.
But a lot of stuff comes with activism. Like, I was getting followed up by the FBI. I was on a watch list. Like, man, it was like some crazy stuff going on.
You're not serious right now. You were what? Like,
nah, I'm being dead.
Why do you?
I'm being dead.
Do you know why they were?
Nah, so. At Palisades, I'm pretty sure it was because of what was going on at Palisades.
That the FBI just all of a sudden decided to monitor you and tap into your phone.
I mean, like black activists are modeled like
terrorists.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So they sent, and the FBI sent an email or something, because I was in Black Lives Matter, like in the Los Angeles chapter with like Melina is one amazing.
And that's when they're really hot during that time.
So they got an email and they got sent to us that there are 2 terrorists on Palisades campus, and that's the craziest thing. So, but that was an accomplishment for me. Alonzo was like, "Yo," because it was me and Alonzo going through this together. Alonzo was like, "Yo," I was like, "We are doing something right," because like the only time you see bad guys is when you go in the right way,
right? And when you face opposition,
yeah, exactly. So I'm like, we're doing something right. But then like phones start getting tapped. Like I remember I got on a plane, like I got searched no matter where I was, I got searched if I was getting on a plane.
Wow.
But I remember one time I got on a plane and I'm on the plane. Security came running on the plane, stopped there, was like, "Are you a Jean?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "A Jean Lee Johnson?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Code negative," and walked off. And me and my brother, we were sitting there and we were like, "Yo, like, what does that mean?" like what's going on? I found undercover cop. He was searching through my car. He was trying to plant stuff in my car.
Wow.
And I caught him in an act because I got into an argument with my girlfriend at the time. I went for a walk and I walked around the corner and I looked and there was a flashlight in my car and we caught him. And I was scared because I wanted to
react.
Yeah, so bad, but I knew that the moment I would have did anything,
you'd be laid out just like all the others that get abused and get killed.
So I was livid, and like my mom, she had to give me something to calm me down. Like I was hot, but after a while, like that stuff like died out. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that comes with activism. So it's just this one saying, like, stand for something or fall for anything.
Right.
And if you're gonna stand for something, if you're gonna stand for your people, are you willing to die for them? And that's something that
I'd rather stand for something than not have a standard and not fight for anything.
Exactly. So as far as activism goes.
So what was the outcome of that?
Of the activism?
Of the whole FBI, following you?
Yeah, everything just died out. It wasn't just me. It was me and Alonzo.
They were, monitoring. And
yeah. And it messed with me. It messed with some of my family. The people that were close to me. The people that were really able to see, like, I mean, you're talking about every single night, like, the same car circle the block,
and it's like an all tinted window.
It'd be regular cars. They'll circle the block and then
like undercover.
Yeah. And then he'll park guys and girls park the car, get up, walk the block back and forth like 3 or 4 times, and then go change clothes
and
walk and walk back and forth. I've been followed in cars, like being tailed and everything. But
and you were like how old at this time? Like 17, 18?
Yeah, like 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like the problem with the US too. They have this issue when you're fighting for issues for black people, or when you're trying to get liberty or liberation,
it's anti-American.
It's anti-American.
Yeah.
Anything to help black people or advance us as a people,
it's anti-American.
Anti-American.
Yeah.
Terrorism. I think last year, if I'm not wrong, U.S. Congress, they put out a new label, Black Identity Extremist. Mm-hmm. And I believe it was Kamala Harris that tried to strike that down and spoke against it.
Yeah.
Like, that's just so wild.
Yeah. Anything
to help black people, you just like, you're a terrorist. Or
yeah.
So, yeah, hearing that story is alarming, because you would never think, at least I would never think, that you were going through something of that magnitude. So, I congratulate you.
Thank you.
And commend you, because that's not easy at all.
Yeah.
At all. And people don't see that.
Yeah, so like I said, like you don't really think about it till afterwards. Like at the end of the day, like for me, I was just doing what I felt like needed to be done. It wasn't because I wanted, anything really. Like I was never gonna be able to take the class, But I had a brother, and I was like, hopefully he can, or like, just looking around and just seeing the ignorance,
thinking about the future.
Yeah, like it was never for me, and I don't like saying this out loud, but like I don't try to do much that's for me. And I think everything revolves around the people around you. Your job. I think.
Where did that mentality come from? That you don't like to do much for yourself?
Jesus, I ain't even gonna lie to you. Just reading. Like I love reading the Bible because of the things that it. The stories that it tells, and the story of Jesus.
It's deep.
Not just the story of him like dying and everything like that. Not to brush it to the side, but the way that he spoke was the things that he spoke about. They ask him like, all right, like we got all these commandments. Like what's the most important? Like, and he made it real simple. Love God and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Like he never said like, all right, like after you take care of yourself, then you go. And it's like, yo, like if somebody is naked, you give them clothes. You give them the clothes off your back. If they're homeless, you give them your home. And it's always been about the person next to you. And that's kind of what led me to Amor and everything. But it's always about the person next to you. And so I do music for the person next to me. For the person I'll probably never meet, but I know is feeling alone somewhere in Missouri or Tennessee or somewhere in China that I'll probably never meet, but my voice is able to travel there thanks to technology, and it can make them feel like, yo, there's somebody that's in this with me. It's like it helps me out, thank God it does, but it's for you, like it's for the people in all actuality. Like,
let me just say this for 2020, best rapper, best activist of 2020. I'm going to say it now, because when y'all see him in a couple years blowing up and doing his thing, at least I could say I interviewed him first. I was the first.
Facts. Thank you.
Yeah, man, that's just so inspiring and good to see people trying to spread positivity and just helping others. Absolutely. But yeah, let's get into that brand a little bit. Yeah. So you said that's what led you to your brand?
Yeah, so...
And when did you start that brand?
Amor started in 2018, and it started right after this missions trip that I went on. So since like 2016, I wanted to do this project, which was originally going to be called Heartbreak Kid, where I wanted to talk about the ups and downs of a relationship. And I went to Dominican Republic, and I was working with Haitian refugees. And we just went out there and we just helped them build a house and everything like that. Their situation is awful. They're like modern day slaves. Like, it's really insane. They work on a sugarcane plantation from like 6 a.m. till dawn. Really, they get paid next to nothing. It's like ridiculous. Or, if they don't work, they get sent back to Haiti. So it's like insane. And I was there with all of those kids, and there they speak Haitian Creole and they speak some Spanish as well, because Dominicans, they speak Spanish.
Wow.
So
right, because that island is split up in two.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
So as I was there, there's a language barrier, so you're trying to learn Spanish along the way and piece together the little things that I learned in high school and everything. And I created like a lot of loving and lasting relationships with the kids there. And when I came back, I had like this real motivation. I was like, okay, like this album it's going to get done now. Like the ups and downs of a relationship, we're going to do it. And I was trying to figure out a name. Like, I knew I wanted it to be Love, but I didn't like the way Love looked. Like, it's just Love. So I didn't like the way it looked. And I went through all these different languages, saying it in Haitian Creole. And like the second thing was Spanish, but I was like, nah, like Amor is too it's easy. That's easy as well. But I didn't like the way any other language looked. And then I went with Amor. And from that point, I started doing like merch just to, promote the album and everything. But people liked it. And I started to like run with it. And then I gave Amor like all these different meanings. The heart has its own meaning and everything like that. But
what does the heart mean?
The heart, so I mean, if I like, the heart is.
We're gonna
so
put it
there's
on
one
the screen
side
too.
Yeah, there's one side that's full, and then there's one side that's cracked, and in between is your lifeline. So it basically says through life, there's going to be ups and downs, pretty much, like plain and simple.
Yeah.
Throughout life, you're gonna have full times of love, times where you're happy and joyful and everything is going good, and then it's gonna be times where your heart is bruised, battered, and cracked, but everything still, just it remains together. It remains intact. So that's what the heart is. And then for more, like this hoodie that I have on is a mind on revolution, and this actually talks to self-love. And it just tells you, like, if you have a mind of love to go and just love your fellow neighbor or everything like that, then
and that's biblical.
Yeah, exactly.
God is not giving you a spirit of fear, but
Yeah,
of love,
love and a sound mind.
Come on, yeah.
So if you go out there and act in love, then love can serve as a revolution. And you giving love to somebody else could stop them from ending their life. And next thing you know, they're going like, yo, I was at the lowest of my lows, and they could go on to become a motivational speaker and change somebody else. And it creates a revolution. And then I have 3 other meanings. So I have a mind of revolution, a move off regret, a moment of realization, and a more organized response, which all talk to different things. But yeah, so I really wear it because it actually has a positive impact, which I never really expected. But like when I wear it and when other people wear it, for some reason it makes people smile. And like that's the best things that clothes could do, really. Like,
and it was a Haiti trip that inspired you.
Dominican Republic.
Oh, Dominican Republic.
Yeah,
okay.
No, I ain't get
And
to
you were
go to
there
Haiti.
for how long?
I was there for 10 days, and then I immediately, like as soon as I could, went back. I was there in May, I believe, and then I was able to go back, and I spent December in there, and I came back like January 5th of last year. So I spent New Year's out there and everything.
Okay.
I
What do you like about the island?
I guess it's a community. I just felt like it was my job to be there, to try to help as much as I could. Because these Haitian refugees, they live on these things called bateys, which is like a plantation. I think that's like the actual definition. It's like a sugarcane plantation. And they live there for next to nothing, and like no one knows about it. And I was on Batey 106. Like there's like hundreds of these things in the Dominican Republic and like other places as well, where these people live in like awful conditions. That's why we were there building houses. Like you're talking.
Oh, so you were out there building houses?
Yeah.
For the days that you were. Okay. Did you get an opportunity to visit any schools?
Nah. There's a school on the Batey, but I didn't go inside. But there's some kids that go to like a school. The place that we were in is a city called La Romana, and the kids do, like the older kids, they do travel off to school, but there's some kids that can't, because you can't go to school without shoes. So because they don't have any shoes, they can't get an education, or if they don't have the right clothes, they can't. And you'll see these kids go crazy for like a notebook, a pencil, and everything like that.
Just that gratitude.
Yeah, and because they really want to learn. And you're just like, I was just looking at it like, man, like.
What did that do to your mind? Like coming back to America and then being in the Dominican, where people don't even have like shoes or like a notebook. basic essentials.
Yeah. To me, it helped me notice that there's not a lot that you need to be happy. And because I didn't really focus on like, oh my God, I'm so grateful that like my water pressure is good or that I have hot water. I don't think that's what I was supposed to focus on while I was there, you know? I thought about the happiness that they had that people here didn't have. And I wrote this poem when I got back that talked about the one thing that America doesn't really have is just this overwhelming joy, this overwhelming happiness. Everybody's always on the go, you know, there's always something going on. And these people that were like poor weren't poor in spirit, you know, and they were happy, and I was happy out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
that means a lot.
Yeah, and I was like, man, like, so that I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned is that like happiness isn't defined by your circumstance. It's who you are and the joy that you choose to carry.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest thing that I learned.
Yeah. What does Elijah look like what does the entrepreneur side of Elijah look like?
I'm for sure, I'm a real business-minded person. I'm a strategic thinker. I like to think of like with Elijah's heart, like, okay, like I could put out an EP and then, you know, do this, or things with Amor. I'm strategic, definitely, but I want to do things that is different, but I don't think about things that is going to be different. Is that, if that makes sense? Like, I don't go into anything with the mindset like, oh yeah, this is gonna kill him. Like, nah, like I don't think like that. I think what can have an impact, or what do I like, or you know, what's gonna serve a purpose. And I think that's what everything matters. That's what matters to me. Like, what's gonna serve a purpose.
Yeah, and since you don't go in with a mindset of, yeah, like this is going to be hot or whatever it is, do you ever feel like what you're producing is not enough? Whether it be music, whether it be a poem? Yeah,
absolutely. Especially with music, I always feel like, you know, I'm like it's not enough. Like, this is not going to catch on. And like I was telling you yesterday, that's the one thing that kind of bothers me. When dealing with business or dealing with music or anything like that, is that your success depends on other people. You know, it depends on whether or not other people like your podcast or like your music or like your brand of clothes or food or whatever. Your success depends on other people. And I've never had the mindset of, oh man, I need these people to like me. That's not how I think. That's not how I operate, and I don't understand why people think like that.
And everybody doesn't even have, that mindset. So
that always kind of bothered me. So there's times where I'll put out a song and I'll be like, this is not gonna catch on, and I sometimes I feel inadequate, but then like I'll get up on the stage and I'll perform, and it doesn't matter like how many people is there, like, you know, I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, at least for this time period. And that, you know, there's nothing that you get from quitting. There's nothing that you gain. In this last song that I dropped called Bench Player, he said, I said, the only thing that you get from quitting is the thought of what if. Like, what if you had hustle? What if you had heart? What if you had hustle? So what, you got problems? What if you had muscle? Like, that's the only thing that quitting gives you, is just this thought of what if or what could have been. There's nothing that anyone else gains from quitting. There's nothing that you gain from quitting. So if you have something that's positive and it's a positive force, even if you feel inadequate at the time, there's nothing that quitting is going to get you. Like, so what's the point of doing it?
How do you deal with that void or that feeling of not being adequate or not being enough?
I I can't quit. Like, even though I feel like, because like right now I feel like I'm not doing enough, right?
Do you feel like you're not doing enough, or do you feel like what you're producing is not enough?
Both. Like, I feel like there's more that I could be doing, but right now I know that I need to stay the course. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, I'll put out a video or whatever, and I get 100 plays or 200 plays. It's like, dude, I must be doing something wrong. But to deal with that, I look at my product for what it is, and I'll listen to my music and I'm like, this is a really good song. Like, it genuinely is a good song. Or I'll look at my product and be like, I really like what I have. And due to that, there's times that I need to remind myself of, like pretty much who I am. Because when you allow other people to define you, or whether or not other people like you to define you, it can mess your whole life up. So, I mean, you sit there and you look at the stats and you can feel a void. You can feel inadequate. But, it's been nice that Kobe went out there and dropped less than 10 points and he was still Kobe. You feel me? Like,
he didn't stop.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what a bench player really talks about is, the great isn't made on the floor, is how he acts on the bench. All the games he don't play, do he stay or do he quit? In that void, how do you respond? And for me, I just respond with, I can't quit. If I do, there's this thing on my screensaver. It's a Kobe quote, and it says, the moment that you give up is the moment you let someone else win.
Wow.
And yeah. And that's how I react in the void. I just know, like, if you're down by 50, you play like it's a 2-point game, and you can't quit. You can't give up.
Yeah, that's real. Can we get a little taste of that quitter, a little bit, if you don't mind?
What you mean?
A little. Give us like a little something, if you don't mind.
What you want? You want a rap or
a rap?
A rap?
Yeah.
Just acapella? Like, you want me freestyle?
Yeah, because we don't got speaker unless you have it. Do you? I mean, I have my speaker. I'd have to connect it to yours.
I mean, I could.
If you could do acapella, that would be good. But if you want,
Yeah. So, before I go, my name is Elijah Johnson. And there's no cussing, right?
Go ahead.
All right.
I'm not gonna stop you.
I got dreams and got fears that I'ma quit. Times I wake up and I feel like I gotta blurt it out, cause on my mind take a hit. My heart is sitting beating. One day I'm gone. Look, now I'm trying to figure out the road right ahead. Sitting here listening to things and getting head. Probably sitting doing the things up in my brain. Try to spit a line might drive me insane. Now I'm sitting here, cruising right to life, doing everything, try to say I'm alright. You ask me what's wrong, I say nah man, I'm fine. Yeah. But then I go there and I sit there and cry like, man. Now I'm sitting, look you in your eyes, having talk with Satan, and then he go remind that I got fears and that I got goals, that I'm not prepared or that I got hoes. Have a talk with God and he tell me that he knows everything that I did, all my pain and all my flows. Man, now I have another talk with me, talking to Elijah, and he tell me about peace, tell me about goals, and he tell me about dreams, tell me about life, and he tell me about E. Man, now I'm sitting here, just gotta eat. Rapping on sharp and sharper, and this is me. Sitting here rapping since I was 16, or maybe like 6, I got $1 and a dream. I give you 2 cents, 2 pennies with me, or maybe give a nickel, drop a dime on this piece, like, man.
Elijah Johnson in the building. Yo, you gotta come back sometime real soon, man. Let me tell you something. This is something amazing. This is something powerful.
Thank you.
He has so much power inside of him, locked up, ready to let it go, man. That was
Thank you.
That was it.
Thank you.
That was it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, man. This is a real authentic talk. I really appreciate this. This is gonna blow up, man. Like, for
man.
real.
Appreciate that,
For
man.
real.
Appreciate that. I'll see y'all in the next episode of Sharp and Sharper. Thank you for rocking with us, the sharpest podcast on the planet.
Amen.
Let's do it.